Diversity is just to get people to recognise the fact that we are more complex than four colours. They can give us patterns, but they don't give us a definitive outlook on who we are. And I've devised what I call the 6 dimensions of the diversity rainbow. We need to consider this. As well as the click colours, we need to consider, first of all, the bottom band of the rainbow is gender. So I'd ask you the question, do men and women think differently? And every time I ask an audience, they say yes, they do. So when we deal with the opposite gender, we need to consider life from their perspective. Then we look up at the next level and we have a look at personalities. People have different types of personalities, and we need to consider we have different personalities, a bit like the click colours is an example of how we can allocate personalities. We also need to look at aptitudes, and aptitudes are the different skills and abilities that people have. Some people are more able to be organised than others. Some people are more able to be creative than others, a bit like the click colours. So we've got our aptitudes, and some people are suited to more roles. Someone with good interpersonal skills would be good in a customer service role, whereas a high introvert wouldn't. So we need to consider that. We also need to consider in terms of the stage of working life. I believe we have 4 stages of working life. When we're first in the workforce and all we're worried about is spending our money and finding a mate, and some people may be a little bit critical of that and say we're not focused on our job. Then we get to our second phase when we've been working for a little while, perhaps we're married, we get mortgages, we want to settle down, we're thinking about career, and we can be judgmental of people on the other side of that continuum. Then in the third phase, we have people who've been working for a while and then they say, is this all there is to my life? So they're thinking about work-life balance. And then we get to our 4th stage, we're looking at people who have been in the workforce for a long time, perhaps don't want to finish work, but perhaps want to cut down to a fewer days in a week. So that's the stage of working life. Then we've got our generational differences, and you've probably all heard about the Generation X and the Generation Y and how they come from a different perspective, and Generation X and Generation X and Generation Y all have the same needs. For example, in needs of praise. Generation X, and baby boomers need praise, but perhaps Generation Ys need praise, but perhaps they get praise in different ways. So perhaps we need to be more demonstrative in our praise and so on. So we have generational differences. And then we have cultural differences. Particularly in Australia, we need to be cognizant of Aboriginal culture, and when I work with remote Aboriginal communities, we need to be aware of what their cultures and what their differences are. And when I work in Asia, there are certain cultural differences I have to be aware of and so on. So in terms of diversity, we need to be aware of the 4 sub-personality types, but we also need to be aware that there's a lot of other things that influence diversity as well.